Going on, Jerome. So obviously, your Minnesota Vikings are having a fantastic start to the season. 3-0, looking really damn good, dominating both sides of the ball, and it's something that can be extrapolated throughout this season. But there's always room for improvement. Here are 5 things that the Vikings need to do right meow to continue to play good football. Number 1, start Reisner at right guard once he comes back off of injured reserve. And it's basically what it comes down to. And Roadhouse. Now, I'm not buying the narrative is like, oh, he doesn't want to play right guard. He just wants to play. All right, I think that's where we're currently at right now. And respect, Blake Brandel has dominated at left guard. But Ed Ingram, you wanted to turn around, like the rest of the 2022 class that's still here, but it's not happening. Ingram has allowed 10 pressures and 2 sacks. He's 30th in the NFL among right guards in terms of pass blocking, which, 30 out of 32, which is not good. It's no bueno, man. And his pass blocking has been fine. He's about middle of the table there, but center and right guard have been the issue for the Vikings. And Darnold is still getting pressured. He's still getting hit, and it just seems like you're playing with fire in that regard. And that is still the Achilles heel of this Vikings offense, is that center right guard spot. Now, Reisner is a more than capable and competent NFL starter, so having him back, at minimum, just using him to push Ed Ingram to just get a little bit better, but I don't know. I feel like at this point of his career, he's been a full-time starter. This is year 3, and even though there was a jump in improvement last year, we haven't seen growth upon that. And he's still the weak link on the offensive line. So I think giving him a breather might make sense. Number 2, depth. So signing Brian Allen. Now, this one may be out of left field, but Brian Allen, recently of the Cleveland Browns, they let him go with the injury settlement. But Brian Allen, the pride of Michigan State, was a starting center on the Rams Super Bowl team. So, of course, Kevin O'Connell, Wes Phillips has a lot of familiarity, very familiar with the scheme, very familiar with the concepts, and can play center as well as both guard spots. And just adding his depth to this roster, I think would make a lot of sense because, not knocking on all the wood, hopefully it's not the case, but it's a long season and there will be attrition and depth. Basically, who succeeds in this league, it comes down to depth. Who can have that next man up mentality? Now, I like Dan Feeney, but in terms of interior offensive line depth, who else do you trust? Juergens? Not yet. Walter Rouse, I prefer him at tackle, but Reisner when he gets back. But there's nothing wrong with having more depth that you trust along the offensive line. And like we said, the O-line has been the issue for the Vikings so far. If you're going to nitpick the 3-0 start. Next up, number 3. Aaron Jones pitch count, right? So I know that it is a lot of fun seeing Aaron Jones out there with burst. He's a complete running back. He's second in the league in running back receptions as well. He's a great pass blocker. And, the problem with a pitch count, it's like what Flores said with Harrison Smith last year. Harrison was supposed to be on a pitch count last year, except it's hard to take him off the field. I get it. I fully understand it. But so after this game against the Packers, when Jones probably going to get 40 touches, they need to dial things back. And Ty Chandler is more than a capable RB1B. But for Jones, he's on pace for 306 touches this year, which would be a career high. His previous high was 285 set in 2019. Now, with Jones, you do have to be concerned. He's already had a couple of health scares, and that's been the thing about him, is that even though he's always been in a running back share in Green Bay, most recently with A.J. Dillon, is that he still gets dinged up, and he's only played a full season twice out of his last 7 years in the NFL. So that's something to monitor. And again, I understand it is a lot of fun to see him running with burst and power and speed in September, but it would be a lot cooler to see him in January and February. So keep him fresh. And also, Ty Chandler deserves that work, man. Ty Chandler's looking really good. Speaking of work, number 4, Jalen Speedy Naylor needs to stay involved. So we said this ad nauseum over the last couple weeks. Even if Addison gets back, he's trending towards returning against the Packers. Naylor still needs snaps. 7 catches for 106 yards and 3 touchdowns this year, touchdown in each of the first 3 games, just like Jefferson, an astounding 15.1 yards per catch. And he needs to stay a factor. And we said this in camp, the big time plays every single day from training camp, I mean, it usually was Darnold and Naylor. Like it was Darnold and Addison, sometimes Darnold and Jefferson, but Darnold and Naylor do have a legitimate connection, and they need to keep that chemistry up. Even when Addison gets back, and I understand it'll be even tougher once Hockenson gets back, but I think it's a good problem to have for Kevin O'Connell. There's a lot of mouths to feed on this offense, and they all want the rock, and they can all do some great things with it. Lastly, number 5 thing the Vikings need to do right meow, extend Josh Metellus and Cameron Beasley-Bynum. So, love Harrison Smith. He's the ageless wonder. Hell, he might even be back next year. Harrison is still playing at a decently high level, but Metellus and Bynum are the future. And I think they're both great for the culture. I love Metellus as a leader. I love Bynum, his character, his work ethic, everything like that, man. And they're 2 cornerstones of what the Vikings want to do. And just in terms of vibes and culture, like they're the epitome of that for the Vikings. And in terms of safety market, I mean, the price of the brick is just going to go up and up and up. Now, Metellus still has a year left on his very cheap 2-year, $8 million extension, but Bynum is in a contract year. But as you go along, like you're instead of low 10 million plus, 10, 12 million a year, you're looking at 14, 15, 16 million a season. So I think that the Vikings can certainly head things off at the pass. I know it's not their thing to negotiate extensions in season per se, but I say just do it. And it's a good message to that locker room. It's just like what happened with Darisaw, just like what happened with Hockenson and Jefferson. It's like, hey, if you work hard and if you're good for the culture, you fit in and you take care of your business here, we're going to take care of you. All right, and I think that's really smart to keep the back end of that Flores defense intact and keeping because Metellus has massively outperformed his extension. Right, so to avoid any sort of issues, I would say extend him now at a cheaper rate. Same thing with Cameron Bynum. Like, don't let this thing get to free agency if you truly do want to keep him in purple. But that's it. 5 things the Vikings need to do right meow. Let us know your thoughts. Our thoughts, comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.